3. Foreign aid, foreign investment. Foreign aid. Aid means assistance and it takes different forms. Sometimes it is monetary assistance, which means that money is paid to the government or an organization working in the other country. Sometimes it is expertise, workers, equipment, or machinery. Aid is the transfer of goods and services from developed to developing nations. Foreign aid is financial or technical assistance provided by one country or organization to another for development or humanitarian purposes. Foreign aid is typically provided by governments and international organizations, often as grants or subsidized loans. Three. Foreign aid, foreign investment. Foreign aid. Foreign aid can take the form of money or commodity transfers, such as food, money, and other forms of aid, as well as professional advice and training. Official development assistance, ODA, is a form of aid that targets the economic growth of a country. Purpose of foreign aid. Foreign aid may require the transfer of professional advice and training, or commodities, or financial resources. Financial resources can occur in the form of concessional loans or grants, such as export credits. Official development assistance, ODA, is the most common form of foreign aid, which is the help provided to support development and to fight poverty. The main source of official development assistance is the bilateral grants from one country to another, while some of the funding is in the form of loans. And often it is channeled by non-governmental organizations and foreign organizations. Countries also offer foreign aid in order to improve their own security. Economic aid may also be used to discourage friendly countries from coming under the control of unfriendly governments or paying for the right to set up or use military bases on foreign soil. Foreign aid can be used to accomplish the political aims of a government, allowing it to obtain diplomatic recognition, to gain respect for its role in international institutions, or to improve the accessibility of its diplomats to foreign countries. Exports of foreign aid also seeks to promote the country and spread its literature, culture, or religion. Countries often provide aid to relieve the distress caused by man-made or natural disasters like drought, illness, and conflict. It helps to promote sustainable prosperity, create or reinforce political institutions, and address a range of worldwide concerns, including cancer, terrorism, and other violations. And environmental degradation. Types of foreign aid. 1. Bilateral aid. It is the most common type of international aid, often provided by a developed country to an underdeveloped one through a bilateral agreement. One side determines the conditions for granting the money, while the other agrees with them. Bilateral grants are the primary sources of official development assistance. The two main reasons for this kind of agreement are geopolitical, and hence, strategic, and to assist during a humanitarian crisis such as an earthquake, tsunami, or other natural disasters. 2. Multilateral aid. It includes funds raised by a group of countries via an international organization to assist developing nations. Most of the time, the capital is used to aid the world's poorest countries, alleviate hunger, and improve humanitarian conditions. One of the most influential organizations engaged in multilateral aid is the World Bank. 3. Military aid. Military aid, unlike bilateral and multilateral, is not about charity. It is all about selling and buying weapons and signing defense contracts. Countries amid a crisis frequently seek international assistance in obtaining weaponry to combat their adversaries. The United States is the most well-known provider of military aid. It accounts for roughly 30% of overall U.S. foreign aid. However, countries like Russia are also known for it. 4. Voluntary aid. Voluntary aid is a charity mainly carried out by non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and is not necessarily linked to governments. The well-known Doctors Without Borders project, for example, sends doctors to countries with poor health conditions to better the lives of the residents. 5. Humanitarian aid. It is often given to countries struck by a natural disaster. It is a more short-term aid and involves several nations, NGOs, or private entities donating resources and services during a crisis. One example is the U.S. government foreign aid spending over $1.5 billion on emergency health and humanitarian needs in other nations during the COVID-19 outbreak. 6. Tied aid. It works similarly to bilateral aid. However, the contract states that the entire loan amount must be spent on a specified country. Most of the time, it is either the donor country or its group of allies. This type of aid is known as a form of protectionism. The government of the developed country donates the capital to another, but the recipient can only spend it on improving the economy of the donor. 7. Project aid. It intends to assist with specific projects. A country may, for example, assist another in the construction of a school or a hospital in a region. In this scenario, the funds help support the project. The funding may or may not originate from a single source. Case for foreign aid. 1. Supplements domestic savings. LDCs have low savings and low investment rates. Foreign aid provides needed capital, equipment, and raw materials to raise investment levels. 2. Overcomes technological backwardness. Aid brings modern technology, skilled personnel, management expertise, and training for local workers, increasing productivity and development. 3. Provides overhead capital. Large infrastructure projects, roads, railways, power plants require huge capital and long time frames. Foreign aid makes such essential projects possible. 4. Helps establish basic industries. Foreign capital assists in building key industries like steel, heavy machinery, and chemicals, which stimulate further industrial growth in the economy. 5. Exploits new areas and resources. Foreign aid takes on the risks of exploring untapped natural resources and new regions, helping reduce regional imbalances and expanding national wealth. 6. Creates social benefits. Infrastructure, industries, and new resources generate more jobs, reduce rural pressure on land, and help decrease disguised unemployment. 7. Raises living standards. With more capital, technology, and industries, productivity and employment rise. This leads to higher wages, lower prices, and improved living standards. 8. Increases government revenue. Profits and royalties from foreign invested industries are taxed, increasing government income. 9. Reduces inflationary pressures. 8. Helps increase the supply of essential goods like food and consumer items, which reduces inflation during periods of high development spending. 10. Solves balance of payments problems. 8. Helps LDCs import necessary goods, technology, and food even when export earnings are low. It also supports foreign exchange needs for debt repayment. Foreign aid plays a crucial role in accelerating development in LDCs. It supports industrialization, infrastructure building, job creation, technological advancement, and modernization. It helps ease inflation, balance of payments issues, and opens new economic opportunities, making aid highly valuable for developing economies. Case against foreign aid. 1. Not essential for development. Many countries have developed without foreign aid. Aid is neither necessary nor sufficient if a country lacks internal motivation for development. 2. Used for wasteful projects. Aid often funds unproductive projects that cause continuous losses and consume more local resources than the benefits they generate. 3. Does not increase net investment. Strict restrictions on foreign capital in many LDCs reduce the efficiency of private enterprises, lowering both domestic and foreign investment. 4. Fails to improve income earning capacity. Foreign aid has not significantly increased income levels in LDCs and has instead increased their external debt burdens. 5. Does not solve balance of payments or inflation issues. Aid encourages governments to launch overly ambitious plans, leading to inflation, falling foreign reserves, and reduced savings, all of which worsen economic conditions. 6. Leads to inappropriate policies. Donor countries influence LDCs to adopt unsuitable Western-style institutions and industries that do not match local needs. 7. Finances uneconomic activities. Much aid funds unproductive enterprises that do not increase food production, raw materials, or import substitution. 8. Politicizes public life. Aid often increases political tensions and social conflict, leading governments to marginalize productive minority groups, which reduces savings and investment. 9. Creates dependency. Donor conditions force LDCs to buy goods at high prices, maintain harmful exchange rate and fiscal policies, and rely heavily on continued aid. 10. Reduces domestic savings. Studies suggest most aid is used for consumption rather than investment, lowering domestic savings. However, the impact varies across countries due to many external and internal factors. Role of foreign aid in economic development. Foreign aid, especially public foreign capital, plays a crucial role in accelerating economic development in less developed countries, LDCs. Private foreign investment alone cannot meet the huge financial needs of these countries. 1. Supports social sectors. Private investment does not finance essential social services like education, health, medical programs, training, and research because they do not provide direct profits. These sectors can only develop through grants and concessional aid from advanced countries. 2. Finances basic public services. LDCs lack essential infrastructure such as transport, power, and communication systems. These projects require large amounts of money and involve high risks, which private investors avoid. Foreign aid enables countries to undertake such low-return, long-term projects. 3. Aligns with national development plans. Unlike private foreign capital, foreign aid can be used according to the recipient country's own development priorities and programs. 4. Limited role of private investment. Since private investment focuses mainly on profitable sectors, it cannot fully meet the broad development needs of LDCs. Hence, expectations from private foreign investment are limited. 5. Moral and global responsibility. There is growing recognition that poverty in one part of the world affects prosperity elsewhere. Developed countries consider it their duty to assist poorer nations, although political motives, especially during the Cold War, have often influenced aid decisions. 6. Forms of aid. Foreign aid reaches LDCs as loans, technical assistance, and outright grants from governments and international organizations. It is widely viewed as essential for development. 7. Debate on effectiveness. Some economists argue that foreign aid is indispensable, while others believe it may hinder development. Therefore, both the benefits and drawbacks of foreign aid must be examined. Foreign investment. Foreign investment is when a domestic investor decides to purchase ownership of an asset in a foreign country. It involves cash flows moving from one country to another to execute the transaction. If the ownership stake is large enough, the foreign investor may be able to influence the entity's business strategy. Foreign investment is when a company or individual from one country makes a long-term investment in a business in another country. Foreign investment, like foreign direct investment, FDI, comes from private investors and multinational corporations and aims for profit and control. At the beginning of the 20th century, most private foreign capital going to poor countries came as indirect investments from Europe. The little direct investment that did come in the 1920s was mostly used to produce goods for export, not for manufacturing products for local markets. However, after the Second World War, more than half of private foreign investment became direct investment. This direct investment mainly focused on extracting raw materials such as iron, crude oil, manganese, bauxite, copper, and electricity. Only a small share went into manufacturing or distribution. Direct investment in manufacturing usually comes only after a country's economy starts growing rapidly, takes off. Therefore, manufacturing-related investments tend to flow to countries that are already somewhat industrially developed and have a large domestic market. Types of foreign investment. Foreign direct investment, FDI. FDI is an investment made by a company or individual who is an entity in one country, in the form of controlling ownership in business interests in another country. FDI could be in the form of either establishing business operations or entering into joint ventures by mergers and acquisitions, building new facilities, etc. There are two types of FDI. 1. Horizontal investment. When an investor establishes the same type of business in a foreign country in which he operates in his country, or when two companies of the same business but operating in different countries merge. It is called a horizontal investment. 2. Vertical investment. When companies of one country merge with the company of another country or acquire the company of another country, but both the company are not in the same business, rather they are related with each other, like manufacturing company of one country acquire the business of another country who is supplying raw material for production. Foreign portfolio investment, FPI. Foreign portfolio investment, FPI, means investing in the financial assets of a foreign country, such as stocks or bonds available on an exchange. This kind of investment is considered less favorable than direct investment because portfolio investment can be sold off quickly, and these are at times seen as short-term attempts to make money, rather than a long-term investment in the economy. Methods of foreign investment. There are two methods or strategies for this investment. Greenfield investment. In this strategy, the company starts its business operation in another country from zero, means they have to set up their own factory, plant, and offices. For example, Domino's and McDonald's are US-based companies that have started his business in India from zero. Now they are leading in their segment. Brownfield investment. In this strategy, the company does not start its business from scratch, rather go by merger or acquisition, like recently Walmart Inc. of US has acquired the Flipkart, which is an Indian company, and gets all the assets and liability of the Flipkart. Merits of foreign investment. FI provides not only money but also management skills, technical experts, new technology, research, and innovations that are lacking in less developed countries, LDCs. FI encourages local businesses to invest more. Foreign firms help local enterprises in two ways: 1. Directly, by giving manpower, money, materials, training, and experience. 2. Indirectly, by creating demand for supporting services like transport, repair, and training agencies. FI brings capital and foreign exchange, helping to fill the savings gap and foreign exchange gap needed for economic development of LDCs. Some of the profits earned by foreign companies are often reinvested in expanding, modernizing, or developing related industries. FI increases the value added in the host country. The social benefits of FI are often greater than the private profits gained by foreign companies. FI increases government revenue through taxes on foreign firms and royalties from agreements. FI raises productivity and therefore real wages of workers. Export-oriented foreign investments provide even greater social benefits because they create strong backward and forward linkages and more employment if they are labor-intensive. FI puts less pressure on the balance of payments in the early years because profits are small and take time to appear. If investment goes into agriculture or extractive industries producing export goods, it helps improve the balance of payments even more. FI also motivates developing country firms to invest in other LDCs. For example, Indian companies invest in Nepal, Uganda, Ethiopia, and Kenya even while they still borrow from abroad. Demerits of foreign investment. FI. Foreign investment brings several disadvantages for the recipient country. These costs often reduce or offset the benefits of FI. The host country must provide incentives such as land, electricity, public utilities, tax holidays, rebates, subsidies, and special allowances. These concessions use up government resources that could have been used in other priority sectors. To attract FI, LDCs allow foreign firms to freely transfer profits, dividends, interest, and loan repayments. If these transfers result in a net outflow of capital, they may cause serious balance of payments problems, foreign exchange shortages, and economic instability. Although FI increases investment and employment, it can worsen income distribution. Foreign firms may attract capital and resources away from domestic industries, reducing their profits and discouraging local entrepreneurship. Foreign companies often reserve top managerial posts for their own nationals and pay them very high salaries and benefits. This creates a heavy drain on the host country's resources. Local workers usually receive training only for low or mid-level jobs with limited decision-making power. Additionally, the extravagant lifestyles of foreign employees can create negative imitation effects and social tensions. FI often introduces capital-intensive technologies that do not match the labor-rich conditions of LDCs. Sometimes foreign firms bring outdated or discarded machinery, creating high social costs because such equipment must be replaced after a few years. FI may reduce the host country's economic autonomy. Foreign firms, especially multinational corporations, may interfere in government policy making in ways that favor their own interests rather than the interests of the local economy.